All right. Welcome back to the channel, people. Welcome back to another live stream. Welcome back to another live stream. We have a market to analyze today. We have a market to analyze. I'm going to talk about the stock market today. What's the title of this stream? I'm going to talk about the stock market today. Is it time to get out? Is it time to get out right now? I will also talk about the cryptocurrency market. Bitcoin is having a pullback on the lower time. BTC is having this pullback right here. I want to talk about what this pullback looks like, what it means in the short term. And I'm also going to talk about tomorrow. Tomorrow we have a monthly close. We are going to close the month of February tomorrow. And I can tell you guys this is not looking good, man. If the bulls have any shame, if they want to reclaim this market, if the bulls want to send the price of Bitcoin, back to higher targets, we need to get above $74,000. Do we get above $74,000? I don't think so. I don't think we get above $74,000. So, I'm gonna give you guys an update on that, and then we are going to talk about altcoins. I'm looking at Solana. Solana is having a pullback, and chat. You remember, all right? Recently, when the market had this, when we had this move right here, guys, I told you guys this is a big trap. We are, this is a pullback, man. This is a major pullback, and I think once we go below, if you go to the 1 hour, once we lose this 81, I think you're looking at a full retracement, back to $75. We are also going to talk about, some of your favorite altcoins. Talk about Zcash. Once again, what I tell you about Zcash, guys. I told you guys this rally was over. And right now, look, going below $220. This is not good in the short term. So I'm looking at Zcash coming down to $180. Sometimes in the next couple of days. We can talk about some short-term trades. We can talk about opportunities in this market. I will also talk about the miners. Told you guys about Iran. Look, they just pumped the price of Iran from around 38 to 47. Only to dump it, right around the monthly close. Iran is back in that low $40 range. And you're looking at, once you lose 38, 39, you're looking at a pullback to 36. Once you lose 36, you're looking at a pullback to 33. Once you lose 33, you're basically looking at a major pullback into the 28, $15 range. Well, actually, around $15. This is my target right here, guys. Once we lose this $33 support. So I'm going to talk about what all that means. Is it time to look for some shorting opportunities? Is it time to look for some long opportunities? This is this is the market that we have. This is the market that we have. But first and foremost, guys, subscribe to the channel if you are new here. First and foremost, subscribe to the channel. I didn't listen to you. I got some buy orders in on Solana. Hey, perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine. If you bought Solana, it's fine with me. I think we're going lower though. Yeah, if you're new to the channel, guys, please consider subscribing. Hit that subscribe button. And I do want to say thank you guys because we just hit 300 subscribers, which is it's a big achievement. We just hit 300 subscribers, guys. May we continue to grow. Looking for 500 subscribers next. 1,000 and potentially much, much more. But once again, welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are having a fantastic Friday. Hope you have some really exciting plans for this weekend. And speaking of exciting, speaking of excitement, let's not waste time. Let's jump straight to the charts. And let's talk about this. Yeah, they're definitely low, but they're going lower. They're going much, much lower. And if I can ask, is that a short-term position or is that a long-term position? And long-term, I'm talking about 3, 6, 12 months from now, maybe longer. I think if it's a short-term position, if you're very strategic, your entry, your exit, your stop losses, your profit targets, then I think you are going to be fine. But if it's a long-term position, 3, 6, 12 months from now, I think you can get in, much lower than what is the price right now. You get in much lower than 81. But anyways, so let me start with Bitcoin, guys. But once again, man, hit that subscribe button. And yeah, let me start with Bitcoin. And then we'll get into this other stuff. All right. Oh, holding long. Okay, it's fine. Look, if this is your average, if $80 is your average, try to dollar cost. I mean, try to add on to your position if price goes lower. But anyways, let's talk about BTC, guys. So Bitcoin remains extremely bearish. When you look at the monthly, this is a bearish Bitcoin, $65,000. But I don't want you guys to focus on the price. I want you to focus on the structure. This is not a bullish Bitcoin. As long as the price of Bitcoin on the monthly is below $74,000, structure-wise, you don't have a reason to be bullish. You go to the weekly. All right, BTC, once again, the structure is very clear. We have lower highs and lower lows. Lower highs, lower lows. If you go to the daily, what do we have? We have a Bitcoin that is bearish. Once again, lower highs, lower lows. All right, so we are in a bear market, and until proven otherwise, we are going to continue to be bearish on this market. And what I continue to say to you is, forget about intraday price action. Forget about what Bitcoin may do today. Forget about what Bitcoin may do tomorrow. Forget about what Bitcoin may do at any given hours, minutes. Try to focus on weekly closes, guys. What I said to you guys last week when we were closing this weekly candle was that it doesn't matter, and don't try to focus on what happens to the price of Bitcoin between now and the next Sunday. Next Sunday meaning this upcoming Sunday. Try to focus on where we close the week. So we opened the week around 67,000. Despite going up to around $70,000, you have the price of Bitcoin at 65,000. We got about 48 hours until we get a weekly close. So the question is, does it look like we are more likely to close above $67,000, or does it look like we are more likely to close below 67,000. Right? I think we're more likely to close below $67,000, guys. And what that means is all of this right here, guys. All right, this move right here, let me go down to the lower time. All of this that got many people excited about this market. Remember this move right here, guys, from about 2-3 days ago now. All right, this right here, when I told you guys it was a big trap. So all of this doesn't really mean anything, because if we close below $67,000, all right, this is exactly what we talked about on Sunday when I said, hey, try not to focus on where the price of Bitcoin is trading, intraday, where the price of Bitcoin is until you get a weekly close. So bearish, 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 bearish. That's all I can say. Every time I look at Bitcoin. If we go to the lower time, let's take a look at what's going on the lower time, guys. So on the lower time, you have this move right here that managed to break above this trend line. So remember the triangle. Let me go to the 4-hour. So remember this triangle right here, guys. We managed to break above the triangle. All right, but then we got rejected. All right, then we got rejected. And if you look at the price of Bitcoin, guys, not only did we get back into the triangle right here, we've actually lower now. So we are basically back to, we are at the same place we were back right here, chat. Remember when we lost this trend line and I was talking about how this was the beginning of a move into the $50,000 range? This is basically exactly where we are right now. But of course, this time, since we have new data, you have to look at this in a different way, I guess. The way I'm looking at this right now is, I have my resistance right here. Okay. This is my resistance between $70,000 and $72,000. And then I have my support right here. So my support is between $62,000 and $65,000. So what I'm saying to myself is this. If I was looking at Bitcoin, I am looking to be bullish every time we bounce off $65,000. I am looking to be bearish every time the price of Bitcoin is below 62,000. All right, anywhere between 62 and 65, I'm basically neutral. And what that means is, we could potentially get a bounce. But below $62,000, I'm bearish in the short term. Anything above $70,000, I'm back to being neutral because, we could potentially get rejected right here. I'm looking at a Bitcoin that could easily get rejected right here. All right, so this range right here, guys, is basically this range right here. All right, this is your support, and this is your resistance right here. And, if we stay around $65,000, in terms of what to do, is really long in BTC right here, taking profits up here. Anything below 62,000, you're shorting it right here with a stop loss, maybe above $65,000. Anything above $72,000, you long BTC with a stop loss, maybe below $70,000. So, it's a lot easier now. It's a lot easier to look Bitcoin and come up with a game plan. But remember, what I said to you guys was that what we have right now is a Bitcoin that is more likely to get rejected, in this box right here between the 21 and the 50. All right, this is what I say to you guys. I still have exactly the same outlook. I still have exactly the same thoughts. We actually got rejected at 70,000. The 21 EMA is at $69,000. So we are getting rejected, inside of this of this box right here, right inside of the circle. This is where Bitcoin is currently getting rejected at. It wouldn't surprise me, all right? I want to make sure that I'm very clear. It wouldn't surprise me, if we get back into the circle right here, guys. It absolutely wouldn't surprise me. But if we lose 62,000, all right, if we lose $62,000, I go back into predicting that this is the move, even though it could potentially be a fake out, just like this one right here. All right. But if we do go below $62,000, I'm very confident in speculating that this is the confirmation and this is the move that takes the price of Bitcoin in the $50,000 range. All right. Overall, what I would say to you guys is this, and I continue to say this over and over again. This is not a bullish consolidation. This right here is not a bullish consolidation. I don't know any bullish consolidation that looks like this. All right. Some people are looking at this and they think this is a bull flag. This is not a bull flag. Right. This right here, guys, is not a bull flag. This is not a bullish consolidation. It's not a bull flag. This is more likely going to break down. All right. Take us into the $50,000 range and potentially lower. Maybe not right now, but give it some time. And why do I think this is a bearish consolidation? Chad, you got to zoom out. You got to look at the weekly. Right? When you have a downtrend on the weekly and monthly time frames, anything that takes place, any consolidation that takes place on the lower time is more likely a bearish consolidation. All right. And in order for Bitcoin to be bullish again, we have a lot of work, to be very honest with you guys. We have a lot of work, man. On the weekly, the price of Bitcoin will need to get above $98,000. And if not $98,000, I need to see a new lower low that is taken out. Maybe I need to see Bitcoin go to $74,000, give us a pullback. And then if we go back up and we take out $74,000, okay. Now I can, start to entertain the possibilities of $60,000 being the low of this entire crash. But as of right now, this is a bearish market. And also, when you go to the monthly, guys, and you look at this right here, this is not a good looking chart. This is not a good looking Bitcoin. You tell me, when was the last time Bitcoin, or when was Bitcoin ever bullish at the 50 monthly moving average? All right. When were we ever bullish? And we got higher highs and higher lows. Never, guys. You look at the last bear market, the price of Bitcoin is at the 50 monthly moving average. That was a $25,000 Bitcoin. Were we in a bull market? Absolutely not. You go back to the 2018 bear market. The price of Bitcoin is at the 50 monthly moving average, around $3,900. Yes, the bottom came in, a few $100s lower. Yes, bottom comes in, a few $100s lower. But guess what, guys? At the 50 monthly, we were still in the bear market. We were still bearish. We were still in a downtrend. You go back to, the 2014 bear market. The price of Bitcoin at the 50 monthly moving average, around $230. Yes, bottom came in, $150 lower. But guess what? At the 50 monthly, we were still in a bear market. We were still bearish. So not once has the price of Bitcoin ever, being bullish at the 50 monthly moving average. In the past, we were very close to the end of the bear market. but we were never in a bull market at the 50 monthly. And looking at the last bear market, not only did we lose the 50 monthly, guys, we ended up, all right, we ended up around $10,000 lower. So the last bear market, $25,000, BTC lows $15,000. So if we were to repeat, exactly the same thing, we lose the 50 monthly at $65,000, and maybe you're looking at a $49,000 Bitcoin. You're looking at a $41,000 Bitcoin. These are some of the targets that I'm interested in. We are still very bearish. The last 2 days when the price ran from 62,000 to 70,000, and many got very bullish and very excited. Well, I'm sorry that I have to say this. Look at where the price is. Look at where the price of Bitcoin is right now. All right, look at this pullback right here, guys. Does this look like the beginning of a bull market? That is the question. All right. Does this look like the beginning of a bull market? And if you ask me, I'll tell you no. Yeah, mine in the 70s is Solana. So I gotta bounce to keep the eye on your channel. Yeah, appreciate you. Appreciate you for tuning in. All right, guys. Yeah, let's keep going. So yeah, this is Bitcoin. Look, it's bearish. Tomorrow, of course. I guess the question right now is, are we gonna lose the 50 monthly EMA tomorrow? All right, $65,000. Are we gonna close the monthly candle below 65,000? To me, that is a question right now. But let me talk about altcoins, and I do want to take some time to talk about the stock market, guys, because we got a monthly close today, so the stock market officially closed the month of February, and I gotta be honest with you guys, it does not look good. Tell me how they pumped the price the last couple of days, only to dump it, literally, guys, only to dump it as we close the month of February. This is not something that we want to see as we go into March, as we head into the spring, basically. But let me talk about altcoins though. So, anyways, once again, hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel, guys. Make sure you smashing the like button. Let's run the likes up. Still needs a bull trap. Short liquidation and a relief rally. Personally, I'm longing hard. If I get confirmation around $57,000. Look, my opinion is this. I believe, and I've talked about this, I think we have a final flash, maybe in the low $50,000 range. And then we're going to get a big relief rally on the weekly. So think about this, right? If you look at this weekly right here, I think this is exactly what we're about to see. I think some of these altcoins, remember, if BTC puts in lows around, let's say the low 50s, some of these altcoins are going to rally 80%, 100%, some even 200%. So the way I'm looking at BTC right now, let's call it $53,000 is a major support. So I believe we're about to flash, right? I believe we're about to flash down somewhere around here, all right? Somewhere in this range, all right? Somewhere around here. I think this is where we're going. And then somewhere around here, I think we're going to put in a local weekly bottom. So we're going to get something that looks like this. I think we're going to get something that looks like this. And then we're going to get a major weekly relief rally. Now, we might even come all the way back to around $72,000. All right, even all the way up to around 74,000. And then I think we get, a major crash, maybe not major, but we'll get a final crash into the lows of the bear market. This is what I'm kind of thinking. If this rally is not big, then we may just go up, maybe back into the mid $60,000 range, or we may even just go sideways, and then we get the final drop, and that will be the end of the bear market. This is what I'm kind of feeling right now. So if you think about the last bear market, guys, I think what's coming is this. I think this is what's coming. This right here is exactly what's coming. Now, the question is this. The question I have for you guys is this. Are we going to get this type of move? Like, this was a big one. From 33,000 to 49,000 to 48. This was a 45% move. This one was not really much. This one was from 17,000 to 25. Oh, actually, this was big as well, too, actually. So another 44% move. So to me, the question is, are we getting, a 30 to a 40% move from the lows of wherever the bottom is? So if we go from right here, let's say the bottom is at $53,000. This is only a 20% move. So a 40% move, you're basically looking at a $75,000 Bitcoin. Or if we go lower, let's say we go to $49,000. If we were to get like a 40% move, and I'm not predicting a 40% move, guys. I'm just trying to think about, what are we going to get? Are we going to get, a 30+% move? Are we only getting a 15, 20% move? That's $1 million question. Or we go to 49. If 49 is the bottom and we're going back to retest $73,000, you're looking at a 45% move. I gotta be honest with you guys though. Yo, chat, it is going to take us time to break above these levels again. And this is one of the reasons I'm not even bullish on this market. Yo, there is a lot of resistance at 72. Starting from $70,000 up to around, 78. There's a lot of resistance right here, guys. I think it's gonna take us some time, before we get back above $78,000. So when I think about this range, like to me, this reminds me of, if you go back to the last bear market, to me, that reminds me of this range right here. Remember the $28,000, $33,000 range? Look, it took some time, man. First time we got rejected. Second time we got rejected. And then the third time, we finally broke out. And, the rest of the bull market was not as bad, other than this consolidation around the all-time highs. So I think this is going to be a real fight. The next time we try to break out. So I think, somewhere around here, end of the bear market, and then, come up, get rejected a couple of times, and then finally get through it. And, who knows the target, $200,000, $300,000. We'll talk about that when the time is right. $30,000 to $39,000, probably. Look, I don't think we go as low as $30,000. I mean, I don't think we get a $30,000 Bitcoin, to be honest with you guys. That's about, that's a 70. No, I don't think you get a 75% crash. I think we get, look, if you go from the top and you go down about, I'm going to say 60%, which is 49,000. I think you start building a position right here, guys. Put some buy orders, guys. Look, put some buy orders around $49,000. Or what you can look, I think the best thing to do is this actually. If you can start dollar cost average from here all the way down to, let's say, 38,000, I think this is going to be a really good average. You know, if the bottom comes into 38,000 and you start to dollar cost average from $50,000, I think your average is around $45,000 or maybe below 45, which is a really, really good entry. Or, you stay on the sideline, you wait for a true bottom, and then you wait for a retest of the bottom, and then you accumulate the retest. So basically, let's say we go all the way down, or of course, you get something like this. This is the bottom. Let's say this is the bottom. Price goes up. When we do get this pullback, I think your dollar cost average, during this pullback right here. I think if you see the price go to below 40,000 and then you get a bounce, let's say the bounce is from 38 all the way up to $53,000. During this pullback from 53 down to, I don't know, let's just say $42,000, I think your dollar cost average, within this pullback right here. So anyways, that is Bitcoin, guys. Let's talk about altcoins. Altcoins, man, they don't look good at all. When you go to the monthly, and I highly recommend, look, if you are analyzing this market and you're spending most of your time looking at these lower time, the 15 minutes, the 1 hours, guys, you're missing the bigger picture. Solana is extremely bearish right now. Solana needs to break above $95 in the next 24 hours to have any chance of going back to retest, some of these levels. Once we close below $95, that is a massive confirmation, man, in terms of where, the price is heading over the next couple of months. So I'm looking at a Solana that could potentially come back into this range right here. Remember, there's no guarantee in this. But if you look 25, all the way up to around $58, like this is a place of interest. Personally, I'll be very patient, wait for the pullback, wait for the lows to be in, wait for, the long-term consolidation, wait for the price to break above, some key moving averages. And also, what I want to say to you guys is this. This is something that I haven't really talked about on this channel. Whatever altcoins that you are interested in, make sure it is outperforming Bitcoin. So I'll give you guys an example. Solana, make sure you buy Solana when its BTC pair looks like this, guys. All right. When you do get a breakout on the higher time frame, not on the lower time. So the best time to buy Solana would have been around October of 2023 based on the Solana BTC pair. All right, this was the right time to get into Solana, guys, because the downtrend was over. Huge breakout on the monthly. Solana is outperforming Bitcoin. Right now, if you look at Solana, you don't want to touch this. Because not only are you losing in terms of the USD value, all right? Think about Satoshis, guys. All right? Think about the value in Satoshis. And this is something that, a lot of retail investors just don't think about. Right? Not only are you losing in terms of the USD value, the most important is the BTC value, the Satoshi value. This is the most important, guys. And if you don't get this, let me kind of, simplify for you. Let's say right now, how many Solana do you need to buy Bitcoin? Let me see. How much? So let's say right now, so you need about That's not right, right? You need about one BTC will allow you to trade. So 804 Solana gets you one Bitcoin. Is that right? Let me see. Or maybe I'll just do the math myself. What's the price of Solana right now, guys? So Solana right now is $80. Let's call it 80. What did he say here? He said 800 of them. Yeah, actually, there you go. That was right. So you need about 804 Solana to buy one Bitcoin right now. In the next bull market, guys, all right, if you're not careful with the BTC pair, all right, in the next bull market, instead of 800 Solana to buy one Bitcoin, you might need 2,000 Solana to buy one Bitcoin. All right, you may need 2,000 or maybe even 3,000 Solanas to buy one Bitcoin. Look, this is the same thing that's happening with Ethereum and a bunch of these altcoins. In the last bull market, you could have bought one Bitcoin with there was a time, I think, when the price of Ethereum of Bitcoin was around 25,000. I believe Ethereum was around $600. I believe. All right, so there was a time all you needed was around was around 41. Actually, there was a time all you needed was around 20 Ethereum. Yeah, 20 Ethereum, I believe, to buy one Bitcoin. All right? Was that right? What's the price of Ethereum right now? It's been a while. So $1,900. BTCs are 65 or 64? 65. So if you divide that by 19, this gives you around 34. So there you go, guys. Yeah. There was a time 20 Ethereum buy you one Bitcoin. Chat, right now you need 34 Ethereum. So when you think about these altcoins, don't just look at them in terms of their USD value. Think about their Satoshis, guys. And this is why, I continue to tell you guys, do not buy any of these altcoins. And honestly, I'm happy to say this, and it may sound crazy. If you have altcoins right now, guys, you better off convert them into Bitcoin. Yes, right now, even though most of these altcoins have already lost around 80, even 90% of their value, I will convert every single altcoin into Bitcoin right now, because doing that is going to save you your Satoshi value. All right, doing that is going to save you some values in Satoshis. All right, Ethereum right now, I'll convert 100%. If I have Ethereum, I'll convert 100% of my Ethereum into Bitcoin. You have to forget about the price of this stuff in USD, guys. All right, how much are they losing in their BTC value? That should always be the question. Right? Always think about BTC value, because if it's costing you around 34 Ethereum right now to purchase one Bitcoin, in the future, it's going to cost you 50 Ethereum. So if you can convert your Ethereum into Bitcoin right now, yes, the price of Bitcoin is going to go down and the price of Solana is going to go down, but in the future, that Bitcoin, let's say it's one full Bitcoin, that Bitcoin is going to purchase more Ethereum, even if the price of Ethereum is higher. Yeah. Even if the price of Ethereum is higher, the Bitcoin is going to purchase more Ethereum. So you got to stay away from a bunch of these altcoins. Right? And if you have altcoins that are extremely down, yes, it's 80% down. Yes, it's 90% down. Guys, you got to save your Bitcoin value. You got to convert them into Bitcoin. And if you love the token, buy it when the bear market is over. All right. The Bitcoin value is going to purchase more of your altcoins than you actually have today. If BTC hasn't bottomed, just don't touch. Yeah, man, don't touch none of these shit coins. Yeah, do not even dollar cost average. Look, the crazy thing is that there's only a few of us that are actually being honest when it comes to, this market. There's only a few of us. And you guys, you honest, you know exactly what you're looking at. A bunch of these guys, a bunch of these influencers, hundreds and thousands of followers, they're just clickbaiting. Right? They are just clickbaiting. All right. So, anyways, let's continue with technical analysis. What do you guys want me to talk about? Any interest in any of these altcoins? Anyways, look, Zcash, man. Chad, remember we talked about Zcash? All right. The last time Zcash had this, big rally, I told you guys it exceeded my expectation because I didn't think Zcash was going back in the $300 range. But guess what? This is exactly what some of these altcoins may do in a bear market. Look, this is an 80% move. But look at where the price of Zcash is. All right. On the daily, once we close below this, is it like $216, $220? Look, that brings you back to $180. Exactly where we were on the 6th of February. All right. So despite, this move right here, all right, are we still bullish or are we bearish? Right. You have to try to not get caught up in these traps right here. These are big traps, man. And trust me, when the price is running, when it's up about 50, 60, 70%, you think you're missing out. You think this is the beginning of something. But if you're patient, the entire move is retraced. The entire move is almost fully retraced. And not only are we retracing the entire move, just give it a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months. You lose 180. You're looking at a Zcash in the $80 range. You are looking at a Zcash in the $80 range. And something like a Zcash, not only, are you losing your, value in dollars, in terms of Bitcoin, in terms of Satoshis, you are just killing yourself. Yeah. So if I had a Zcash position, let's say I was a long-term investor in Zcash. Let's say my average was, let's just go with $500. I'm currently down 50%, almost 60% in my position. Guys, yes, it doesn't feel good, but I am converting 100% of my Zcash into Bitcoin. Right? Even if I love Zcash, that's okay. I'll be back later. Because if the price of Zcash is around $80, I promise you, your Bitcoin position is going to purchase more Zcash than you actually have today. Right? Those same Zcash that you converted into Bitcoin is going to purchase more Zcash than you actually have today. You just got to be patient. Exactly. Typical pump and dump. And you got these influencers, man. I mean, some of these guys, they don't have any shame, to be honest. Every single one of these altcoins. Like, I'll show you guys. I'm very interested in Sui in the next bull market. When I think about Sui, it kind of reminds me of Solana. I don't know why in the last bear market. But I won't touch Sui until its BTC pair, breaks above this trend line. And this is a monthly right here, guys, and starts trending up. All right. If Sui's BTC pair doesn't look like this, I'm not interested in the project because this means it is outperforming Bitcoin. And if it's not outperforming Bitcoin, why even bother? All right. Why take on, more risk and still underperform? Can you imagine that, guys? Can you imagine, going in the stock market and investing in a stock that is going to underperform the S&P 500 or any of the ETFs, right, might as well just buy the market. Right? Why take on more risk and still underperform? This is why this is important. This is extremely important right here. But I'm interested in SUI, but only if its BTC pair is breaking out and trending up on weekly and monthly. Yeah, a lot of those influencers, yeah, it's the sponsors. The sponsors, they are charging them tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars, and of course, the more viewers, the more money on YouTube and X and whatever other platform. Anyways, yeah, let's continue with a bunch of these stuff right here. Look, I'm looking at XRP. Every time I look at the monthly chart of XRP, I mean, it's so bad that it doesn't even look real. So I'm looking at XRP. All right, I continue to believe this is the range right here. All right, and I think, look, the bare minimum, we're gonna feel this entire week. Remember October 10, this crash right here, guys, down to 78 cents. I think the bare minimum, we're coming down to fill this entire week. So if you go to the weekly, this is a consolidation that only ends up, dumping. If you go to the daily, look at the daily right here. Look, every single one of these moves. So lower high. Now we got lower lows. Very soon, you're looking at a retest of $1.12. I don't think this is gonna hold. I think we're gonna blast through this support right here, and we're looking at a 70 cents target. 78 cents. Excuse me. All right, so that's XRP. If you look at the lower time, if I'm looking at the 1 hour, all right, look, almost about to retrace this entire move. All right, this is almost about to be fully retraced. Once you take out these lows right here, you're basically looking basically $1.31 again, which is right here. Once we lose this, what do we have in terms of targets? We have, basically back here, guys, at $1.20, $1.12. This is the range right here. Once you lose 130. So that is XRP. All right, and then you look at. So we talked about SUI. No, we didn't talk about SUI. We talked about SUI BTC. So SUI, once again, have the same outlook. You're looking at this 50, 40 cents range right here. So give it a couple of weeks. We'll be there. You go to the daily. All right, look. What's crazy about this market? It actually looks, extremely just manipulated, guys. I mean, look at this pump right here, man. Look, it doesn't even look real. Look, they send the price up only to retrace it straight after. Go to the lower time. Once again, from 84 cents to $1.02. Look at where price is, 89 cents again. We're very close to these lows right here. On the 4 hour, we don't even have a support. From here all the way up, like, we don't have anything. So the only support we have is basically 85 cents, basically at the beginning of the move. And going back to the daily, you got 78 cents. You lose 78. It's a straight line into the 50s and 40s. All right. I continue to say this, do not dollar cost average into any of these altcoins. Stay on the sideline. There are going to be big relief rallies. Look, it won't surprise me if SUI rallies up to, even all the way up to around $1.33, think about going from, if SUI can go from around here, if we were to go from 50 cents, guys, like we can run all the way up to $1.30. This is a 180% move. 74. 174% move. Or, even if we just go up to retest, let's just say $1, right? So from 50 cents all the way up to $1, this is a 120% move. So there is going to be some very big relief rallies across the altcoin market, but we need a pullback first. We need to retest these targets first. Jesus. Hell, you guys are hilarious. I gotta give you that. Anyways, yeah, look, Sui right here, guys. Any altcoins? What do you guys want me to analyze? Where is there? Oh, anyways, let me talk about the stock market for a second. Chat. This is not looking good. So the last couple of days, it's actually this week. These last couple of days, they pumped the price of these stocks. Let me just start with the miners. These last couple of days, anyways, let me get some water. Chat, these last couple of days, they have moved the price of these stocks so high only to dump him as we close the month of February. So I'll share this one with you guys. This is Iron. My outlook on Iron has always been, at least for the last couple of months, weeks actually, that the top is in, and this is the beginning of a long-term pullback. This is basically my feeling on Iron, and the reason is because I think this was a double top, and I think this was a weekly lower high, and the only reason anyone will want to be bullish on Iron is because we are basically still in an uptrend on the weekly. But once we go below $33, then I think you're looking at a beginning of a much, much bigger pullback, or at least a much bigger crash. In terms of targets, I'm looking at this $15, $21 range. Like, this is my target on the weekly. So anyways, the last couple of days, they pumped the price of Iron from around $39 to $47. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I have puts. So I was like, are they really going to same price, back into the 70s? But, I remain very optimistic as long as the price of Iron is below $63. Look, if we get above 63, I'm very happy to cop. I'm happy to cop my losses and just move on. But look at where the price is right now. Right, 40 prices are $40.95. But what I actually want to talk about is this weekly close right here, guys. Look, this is not a good looking weekly right here. And not only that, when you go to the monthly, this is not a good looking monthly, guys. All right, we opened up here, and look at where we closed the month of February. All right, from $52 to $40. Of course, when you go to the daily, and even I think the 4 hour, is it the 1 hour I was looking at earlier? Like, to me, this right here was a major red flag. All right, price broke above the 200 moving average. Straight away got rejected and pulled all the way down to $39. And I'm looking at this 39. This is our very last support on the lower time. Once we lose 39, you're looking at 33, guys. All right, you are looking at 33. Once you lose 33, you're looking at 28. 28 is right here. And you also have 24. So basically, this is a range. All right, so these are my targets. All right, 39 is lost. You're looking at 33. 33 is lost. You're looking at 29. 29 is lost. You're looking at 25. This is a short term right here. The long-term targets is when you zoom out and you go to the weekly. On the weekly, you basically have previous I think this is an IPO. I think 28 was the IPO price. But then once you lose the IPO price, man, you're looking at a $15 stock. Anyways, it's not just that one. You look at the likes of, remember, Nvidia. They just had their earnings. Some really good earnings. Pre-market, we actually, pumped into the $200 range. But if you have been watching my streams, I told you guys Nvidia is got what looks like, a head and shoulders pattern. All right, this is your right shoulder. No, this is your left shoulder, right shoulder. This is the neck right here, guys. If we lose the support right here, and also we are approaching the 200 moving average. If Nvidia loses this support right here, I'm looking at $170. You could be looking at a major pullback. Let me go to the weekly. You're looking at a major pullback to around $150 to 127. All right, 150 at 127. Like those would be my targets. All right. And then you take a look at Tesla, guys. This is Tesla right here. All right. I do think Tesla still looks very bullish. As long as the monthly is above my 10 moving average, which is, $394, I'm pretty much very bullish on Tesla. And also as long as we are above 382, this is a weekly support, I'm pretty much very bullish on Tesla. But once you go below 382, there's a very good chance we're coming down to retest this range right here, guys. And also don't forget the S&P 500. I told you guys the SPY, we got a bearish divergence right here. We've talked about this bearish divergence on the SPY, guys. Look, RSI has been trending down, lower highs, lower lows. You look at the SPY. All right, this thing has basically been going sideways for the last couple months now. Once you lose this support right here, all right, you're basically looking at a drop all the way down to around $650. If this is where we're going, all right, if this is where we're going, guys, Chad, just think about this, right? If we go from here, this is a 5% drop. If we go down 5%, Bitcoin is going to lose easily 20%. All right? If we go down 10%, Bitcoin is easily going to lose 30 to 40%. All right? A 10% pullback, 10% correction, a pullback in the SPY brings the price to around $620. This is easily a 40% drop in the price of Bitcoin. A 40% drop in the price of Bitcoin, you're looking at a $40,000 Bitcoin as of right now. This is this is looking scary, and I think March is going to be very interesting, if you ask me. Let's take a look at the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ is right here. Look at the NASDAQ, man. Look at this right here, guys. Bearish divergence. Again, we talked about this. All right, the market does not look good at all. If I'm looking at NASDAQ right now, the RSI below the 50 line, I think that is going to be a disaster that could be the beginning of, like a really nice pullback. Maybe a 10% drop, a 10% move. You're looking at a $23,000 NASDAQ. All right, going from the top. Once again, 10% drop. Or maybe we get, I don't know, a 17-20% drop. That gives you a $21,000 target. Imagine if MSTR starts to sell as well. No, I don't think MSTR is gonna have an impact on the price of Bitcoin. I think this is actually leading. So I actually think now, of course, I could be wrong, and I'm not here to try to be right and wrong. I actually think MSTR needs to rally. Like, I actually think when you look at the chart of MSTR, like, it needs a rally. Like, this thing has been going down. This is a straight line from $450, all right, to $100. Not a single bear market rally. I don't know if we want to call this a bear market rally right here. So I actually think this thing needs to rally. Right? MSTR is actually leading Bitcoin. It goes down way before Bitcoin. Like, if you look at this crash right here, this is July of 2025. This was the beginning of this entire crash. July 2025. Remember, in July 2025, Bitcoin is either going sideways or we're going up. November or October 2025, when Bitcoin starts pulling back, MSTR is already around a $300, in the low $300 range. So I actually think MSTR might give us, this might give us if MSTR rallies, if we get a weekly rally in MSTR, I think this is going to signal the upcoming rally in the price of Bitcoin. So let's say the lows are in and we go all the way up to, let's just say, $280. All right, and Bitcoin is going sideways. I think you want to buy Bitcoin after. So if you think about the last bear market, let's see when we got the rallies actually. So we got a rally January 2022. All right, January 2022, Bitcoin was not rallying from January 22 until April 22. So let's take a look at the price of Bitcoin. January 22, April 22. Oh wow, actually same time. The rally took place at the same time. Wow, interesting. Anyways, chat, appreciate you guys, man. Hopefully you enjoyed the stream. I'll see you guys